Right, welcome everybody, and thank you to those of you that arrived so calmly and early and on time. And I know that one or two of you might need to drop off. I've also got one or two people dropping in. It's all good, and it's always your choice whether you want to be on camera or not. In fact, it's such an important principle around awareness of what's happening for you, and not just doing what's expected of us, but also honoring what you need. Because when you stand up for yourself and you look after yourself, you actually show up better, even though it may not be what everybody else wants. So well done for always looking after you. So today, as always, everything is an invitation. I will share the link to the recording. So if you need to drop off, you can access that. What I'd like to do is position the context of how this fits within the Wellculator. And I must say, I'm so happy. So many of you have reached out to me and shared what your score is on the Wellculator, what you're currently working on. And that's lovely. And I know that quite a few of you have watched the videos. If you haven't, and you're like, oh, I know I must get to it, I know I must get to it, this is just a nudge to tell you that we're halfway through 21 days. So if you can watch them, set aside some time, maybe next week, once or twice, make a date with yourself and a cup of tea, just so that you feel that you've spent some time on that too. That would be wonderful. And then in terms of the Wellculator, today's topic specifically has a direct impact and influence on, let me just make sure, can you see the screen with the Wellculator? Great. So it has a direct impact on living mindfully, which is point number 3. And then point number 6, around getting adequate rest. And we're going to look at 7 different types of rest that we need. One of them is sleep, but there's 6 others that are also important. And then, of course, it helps us with our nervous systems, which are so overwhelmed at the moment. There's very few people that I meet that are relaxed and calm. Generally, most of us are quite wound up. And if we think about nature, every day, the sun sets and then the moon rises, potentially if the moon's out in the sky, and then the sun rises again, and we have change of seasons. We just had the equinox and the solstice, depending on which hemisphere you're in. So there's this constant change. There's this flux of up and down, a time of rest and darkness, and a time of bright light, a time of of like summer and harvesting, and a time of wintering and going inward. And it's the same, for instance, with music. If music was just the notes, it would just be this huge cacophony and not really make sense. We need the pauses, the silences, sometimes short, sometimes long, to create different forms of music. So today is around, depending on the music you want to play, so to speak. Some days you might need to be really doing like some kind of techno dance, trance type music because you've got to get stuff done. You're about to go into a board meeting, for instance. And other times you want to relax because you're with your family, or you're wanting to get to sleep. So you want a bit of classical, so you need longer pauses. And I'm curious if you agree with the statement on the screen, that your mind will answer most questions if you learn to relax and wait for the answer. Maybe give me a thumbs up if that's something that you agree with, that if we give ourselves an opportunity to rest, we can often find the answer within ourselves. However, many of us are turning outwards, right? We're not spending times going inward. And when we stop, actually, even if it is just for 2 or 3 minutes or maybe longer, it can be really difficult, because there's a part of us that comes alive, that starts to come to the surface when we stop just doing, and we start being. And that can be a bit scary. In fact, it can be quite disturbing. I know when I'm very stressed and I try and relax and I can't, I get so anxious and irritated with myself and frustrated. And so we've got to be careful of that. Meditation, mindfulness, all these different forms of rest that we know we need. I also want to be practical. And we've had a really, really pressurized 3 years. And many of us have got a nervous system that is either hyper aroused or so aroused that it's actually become exhausted and flat. And so we've got to be compassionate, and we need to spend time going inward because of the pace of life, the amount of stimulation and technology coming at us. And also, relaxing is not easy. It's not natural, right? We need to learn it, which is why I shared this in the WhatsApp group. when something stresses us, that happens involuntarily. You can't decide if you get a fright or your intuition says something's wrong or your mind is just going over and over something. However, we need to learn how to relax again, because for generations now, for various different reasons, not just because of technology, because of political, economic constraints, because of geopolitical changes, there's so many reasons why our nervous systems and the stress response has become so big and so prolific. And so having ways to learn how to relax can be very important, because if you don't, you constantly feel like you're in fight or flight. It's like you're being chased by a wild animal all the time. And that means you're going to have this cascade of adrenaline and cortisol inside your system. And even though we're not being attacked by animals, we're being attacked by fear and scarcity and overwhelm. And, you just see a post sometimes on Twitter or another article on LinkedIn. I saw more stuff about the war again this morning. And, I got news this week of a dear friend who's been lost in death. And it's just, there's always stuff coming at us. And it can be really physiologically exhausting. And so some of the techniques, or specifically the technique I want to share with you today, is something we know. I don't need to tell you that taking a deep breath is good for you, but sometimes what we know is not what we put into action. So common knowledge is not always common practice. And so I know that some of you have come from a full day and you're preparing to go to bed. Some of you are in the middle of a workday. Some of us are reaching the end of our afternoon, and our minds can feel really, really full. And it's hard to be mindful when our mind is full and it's jumping around. So what I'd like to do is, in order to not just make this theoretical, is to give you an opportunity to feel a bit of rest. And I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes, and I'd like to take you through one of the most powerful relaxation techniques I was taught 4 years ago. It's called a centering technique. I'm not going to explain why it works. If you're interested in the science and the physiology, you can reach out to me and I'll share that with you. I want you to actually get a living experience of this. And what it does is it goes through 3 steps, A, B, C. You don't need to remember them. I just thought it's nice, if you're the kind of person who's interested in this stuff, it's nice to know what's coming, especially if you're curious. So awareness, I'm going to ask you to become aware of your body. Then I'm going to ask you to focus on your breathing. And then I'm going to ask you to relax, specifically your core, and I'll guide you through how to do that. And it will be 3 minutes, not longer. We might, if we have time, do a slightly longer one again before the end, because I'd like to take you through a different type of centering technique that has helped me a lot to get to sleep. So I'm going to set my time, and what I encourage you to do, if you're able to, and if it's safe, to take your eyes off the screen so that you get less visual sensory input. If you're comfortable to do so, perhaps close your eyes. And then I invite you to bring your awareness to what is supporting the back of your leg. So if you're sitting, bring your awareness to how the chair feels beneath your buttocks and your legs, perhaps even against your back. Bring your awareness to your feet and notice how they are being supported by the ground beneath you. And then bring your awareness to your hands, wherever they may be, on the lap, on the desk in front of you. And there may be other sounds in the room around you, but bring your awareness as much as you can towards my voice and to any sounds that are happening really close to where you are seated in whichever environment you find yourself. And then bring your awareness to your breath. So bring your attention to the center of your chest, your sternum, just behind your breastbone where your heart is beating. And without criticism or judgment, notice how your breathing is. As you take an inhale, can you notice your chest expanding? And as you exhale, can you notice your shoulders maybe drop a little bit more towards the ground? Could you, on your next exhale, allow your shoulders and your neck to relax even by 1 or 2%? We carry a lot of stress and tension in the upper part of the body, the neck and shoulders. Now bringing your awareness to the back of your neck and the top of your spine. Gently bring your energy, your attention down the spine and allow it to relax. Allow it to drop down towards the chair or the ground. So bring your awareness down past your upper back, the middle of your back, down to your lower back, and right down to your coccyx, to where your buttocks start and you make contact with the chair. And from this slightly more relaxed position, I'd like you to take 3 slow, deep breaths in your own time. Make these the slowest, deepest breaths that you've taken all day. Breathing in deeply into your belly. And as you're exhaling, allowing yourself to release stress and tension, perhaps letting your body relax another % more. And then one last deep breath. And then from this relaxed place, before I ask you to open your eyes, if your eyes are closed, is check in with yourself. Ask yourself, how am I in this moment? How do I feel now compared to how I was 3 or 4 minutes ago? Without judgment or criticism, you could be feeling worse, you could be feeling better. We can't consciously change what we aren't conscious of in the first place. And then I invite you to bring some movement to your hands and feet, maybe moving your wrists around, maybe wriggling your toes, moving your shoulders. And then when you're ready, slowly open your eyes, let the light back in if your eyes were closed. Maybe fake a yawn. When we fake a yawn, we activate the vagus nerve, which actually can trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which is part of relaxing, which is why when we yawn, we usually want to go to sleep. And if you do need to leave the call anytime soon and you feel like you're a little too relaxed, an exercise to energize, which is the opposite of what we just did, is this, you can shake. So you shake your hands and your arms, perhaps a leg or two, and that brings a bit of blood flow and energy to those parts of your body. But if you'd prefer to stay in this place of deeper relaxation, then feel free to do that. What we've just done is you gave yourself a 3-minute recharge. So you helped your nervous system get a little bit of a boost. Because from the moment we wake up and we become conscious that we're awake, and especially if we let the outside world in by looking at our phones and WhatsApps and Slack messages and emails, and we listen to the radio and the news, and we've got people that we live with, and we've got to commute and face the world. And, we then start having to engage mentally, physically, emotionally, sensorially, and all of that can drain our energy. And that's why we can be so exhausted at the end of a day, but potentially be tired, but wired. And so we struggle to get the kind of deep rest that we need. So what I'd like us to do is I'm going to take you through quite quickly 7 types of rest. And as I go through these, what I invite you to do is to think about which of these types of rest have you had more of in the last week and a half since we've seen each other? So if you think of the last 2 weeks, or maybe this month, so March, which of these have you got enough of? So which do you feel like I'm fine on that? Or which are you like, oh my God, I didn't even know that was a form of rest. I really would like more of that. So maybe just keep that in mind as I go through them. So the first type of rest is mental rest. It's exactly what I just said. When you can be wired and tired and then you can't sleep because our minds just race and race and race. And the more time we spend seated behind screens, the more the need for mental rest, because we were not made to sit 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day. Certainly, physiologically, our nervous systems are not geared towards the amount of screen time that we have and the speed at which the screen time operates. I mean, I'm sure some of you have experienced ChatGPT, and that's just one example of what's happening in that tech space. And so during your workday, for those of you that are spending a lot of time behind the screens, taking an eye break. So every 20 minutes, looking 20 meters away from your screen is a good idea. That's called the 20-20-20 guideline of having a bit of a mental break. But definitely stopping for 1 or 2 minutes every hour that you need to sit and work. If you don't, you may be compromising your effectivity anyway and making mistakes, especially after a few hours of working. Apparently, our best work is done in about 5 hours. So if you're working for longer than 5 hours and not taking strategic breaks, you potentially then could be spiraling and causing more tension and getting headaches and perhaps not working as effectively. So having a mental break, which is why I always say, and part of the Wellculator, point number 3, is do you have a mindful lunch? So halfway through your day, when you stop for lunch, do you still have your phone and your laptop? Are you making calls, answering emails on social media? Or can you take a break? Even just starting with 5 or 10 minutes is a great way to start. And by doing that, you can help yourself potentially to come back and be more effective. Then the second type of rest that I wanted to highlight is what we call sensory rest, which means rest from all the stimuli that comes in, especially through lights on screens and specifically at night. So one of the biggest changes that have happened on the earth over the last, let's say 50 to 100 years, has been especially with the advent of electricity and electrical light. So if you look at photos of the earth from out of space, over time, over decades, especially at night, it's incredible how the earth has gone from being dark at night, which is what we're wired for, darkness, we need darkness in order to fully relax and help us get a good night's sleep, to always lit all the time. I remember when I moved to London 6 years ago, what a shock it was. There was lights all the time. I had to get blackout curtains because there was a street light right outside my room, and all the time there were lights. Now that I'm not living in a big city, I appreciate that there's a little bit more darkness, but still not enough. So we need to be able to bring in some darkness, especially at night. Our eyes, the visual cortex that connects to the brain, gets very tired. I don't know if you know this, but half an hour after you close your eyes at night, your eyes will keep on trying to find light, which is why it's important to, at least for half an hour before you go to bed, be in a more dark environment. So practically this means don't have big headlights on in the rooms, rather have a lamp in the corner on, or if it's safe, you could use candles. Or if you're really sensitive to light and you want to help insomnia, you can even get these glasses that are infrared that cancel out the blue light or bright light. And of course, you can also get proper light, these different types of light bulbs. So we wired more for fireside light, candle light, so orangey yellow, as opposed to bright blue and white, which is what we get off these screens and these devices that we often go to bed with. And then another way to rest all the sensory input, especially through the eyes, is to focus on your senses. So right now, whatever room you're in, when we did that relaxation technique a few moments ago, I got you to think about what you could hear. So how about let's use another sense. What can you taste? So when you bring your awareness to your mouth, how does the inside of your mouth feel? Is it moist? Do you maybe need a sip of water? Have you still got a bit of maybe coffee or a taste of something that you ate recently? When we focus on our senses, more than just letting all this input come in from technology, it also helps us to ground and be present and be in the moment. Then another type of rest that we need is emotional rest. So some of us are all of us are wired for connection. We need connection. Some of us are more introverts, like I'm an extroverted introvert. So I love being with people, but I have to spend time on my own in order to show up in the best way with people. Some of us, though, are the other way around. We need to be with people in order to be okay to be on our own. Do you know what you are and what you need? And could you be curious about that? And very important, especially when you're going through a stressful time, is to be conscious of who you spend time with. I know we can't always choose this. You can't choose your kids or your partners or maybe your family, but you can potentially be aware of how do you feel after you spend time with certain people. Because you know what it's like if you get onto, I don't know, a bus or a train and someone angry comes on, or somebody walks into the room that's angry. You can feel that, right, without them saying a word. So our energy and our states are contagious. And unfortunately, not everybody's on this 21-day Wellculator well-being program. And so is not being conscious about how they're feeling and not always regulating themselves. And so knowing when you need to maybe distance yourself from some people, or how you recharge is important. Nature for me is a wonderful way that helps me ground and come back to myself. And then I can go back out and be with people. And I'm busy doing a course on epigenetics. So it looks at genetics and how we can use our genes to help with our well-being. And there's a particular gene that they've discovered that increases stress for people that live in cities. So if you've got that gene and you live in a city, you could potentially be more predisposed to anxiety and depression and mental health issues. So that's just another reminder around how important nature is. So as much as possible, getting time in nature, if you can, on a daily basis, even if you just spend 5 minutes standing on grass or looking at a tree or bringing in some plants into your workspace. Then another form of rest that we need, especially for healthy brain development, and neuroscience supports this, is we need to play, we need to be creative. And as kids, we did a lot of this, right? And those of you that are parents know that kids that are playing and creative actually can shift their state almost immediately. You know, they can be throwing a tantrum, be very upset and angry, then get into a game or get intrigued by some kind of playful thing and then change completely. So my question to you is, have you got hobbies? Are you spending time doing things that make you happy? And this is very personalized, right? For me, I love dancing. And when I go dancing, I feel better. When I don't, like I haven't been for about 3 weeks, I can feel something's missing. I used to do a lot of mosaic art and I miss that. So I'm thinking about how can I bring that back? I don't have a lot of space, but how can I do some mosaic art? I've got a friend who I never thought he would do this, but he recently bought an adult coloring in book because he's going through a very difficult time with his son. And he's like, I just need something to keep my hands busy and my mind off it. So there's really a lot of different things that we can do that can help us bring back a sense of creativity. And then of course, we need what is called passive rest. So passive physical rest. That means we don't have to work at it. We just have to do it. I mean, we can't survive if we don't sleep. So this would be sleeping and power napping. And if you're not getting enough rest and sleep, I highly recommend on the learning portal, there's a half an hour masterclass that I did on sleep with a guide around looking at the seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter, as a way to approach sleep. If you take a look at that and you read through the handout and you still feel like you want extra support, please reach out to me. Because if you're not getting enough sleep, you definitely aren't recharging your battery. And if you can't work on sleep right now, which of these other forms of rest could you potentially be bringing in? So the second last form of rest, and we're about to do an exercise, by the way, which will help you, especially if you can't get enough sleep as well, is we are also wired for touch. So humans need touch. We know that as babies, if babies don't get touched enough, they actually don't thrive. They stop growing. And we need to hug and touch so that we release oxytocin, especially with loved ones or pets. So I know we can't always find the time or have the money and the resources to go for massage, but we can also massage ourselves. So in some of my courses, when I'm in the room in person, we do, you know, if you've got a stiff neck or shoulders, even just now while I'm chatting, I give you permission to just gently, you know, you don't have to be a qualified masseuse, to just squeeze these muscles, especially around the neck and the shoulders. There's a wonderful nerve that some of you might have heard about called the vagus nerve, and it's part of the relaxation response, the nervous system that relaxes us. And when you massage the neck, because the cranial nerves and the vagus nerve starts here and comes down, you actually activate it. And that's why when we're stressed and we carry all this tension in our jaw, if we massage our face and our jaw and our neck, we can help that nerve to activate and relax. And instinctively we do this stuff. Like, I don't know if you've noticed with somebody else or maybe yourself, if you're feeling anxious, you're in the stress response, or if you're thinking strongly about something, I don't know if you've noticed that some people do this, they touch their collarbone. And because this is soothing, because the vagus nerve goes down from the cranial behind the neck and the jaw down, and then it spreads down into the digestive system. So that's, some people actually recommend patting the top of the chest. Also, by patting your chest, and you create a bit of an echo inside the upper chest area, and that vibration is very soothing. So I don't know if anybody has had the experience of sound therapy or gong baths, where you hear that like very soothing kind of tones and music. And that's another reasonably simple and cost-effective tool that we have at our disposal. If you're accessing YouTube, you can access these kind of sounds and music that can help you to relax. You can also access what I call NSDR, so non-sleep deep rest. So these are very specific ways to relax the body that make it feel like you've had sleep. And I was going to do one now, but I think I'm going to do it after we answer the question, so that you're not too relaxed and then can't answer the question. Yes, we'll do that. We'll do it right before we end the call. I'd like to take you through a 3-4 minute non-sleep deep rest protocol. And if you're interested in finding more, there are many apps that I can share with you, and there are many on YouTube for free. They're sometimes called yoga nidra. So nidra means sleep. Yoga is misleading because you're not going to be doing downward dog and breathing and cat cow. You lie on your back or any comfortable position, and then they take you through this particular body scan that can be deeply relaxing. So I'll come back to that in a moment. Then the last form of rest is a form of spiritual rest, or if you have a sense of meaning or belonging, this is about feeling like you've got a purpose in your life. Like, what is your reason why? The Japanese call this ikigai. And the French call it joie de vivre. Like, what is your joy of life? What gets you up in the morning? Why are you living this life? Some of us don't ask this question, and that's all right. But I'm guessing that you wouldn't be on this call, on this course, interested in your well-being if this wasn't important to you. And it's important to every now and again stop. And if you have a religion or a faith, almost every religion or faith has a form of sabbatical or a form of rest or prayer. But it doesn't need to be a formal religion at all. It can be solitude, time in nature, reflection time. It could be simply asking yourself once or twice, in a year, maybe more often, how am I doing? Like, is my life okay? Am I happy? So out of these different types of rest that I've just mentioned to you, which one do you have a longing for more of at the moment? So which one do you want more of? Is it mental rest? So do you feel like you'd like to be more mindful and have less of a racing mind, so that you're able to switch off and sleep at night, for instance? Is it sensory rest? So do you feel like you need less technology and less input around the senses? Is it emotional or social rest? So do you feel like you're just giving? Maybe you're a carer. I work with a lot of carers in the healthcare industry, and this is the one they need the most, because they just give, and they don't know how to give to themselves. Is it creative rest? Maybe you actually like, I didn't even think that was an important part of rest, to be playful and creative. Is it passive physical rest? So that means sleep. Is it active physical rest, which is stretching, massage, deep rest, like the non-sleep deep rest that I'm going to take you through? Or is it maybe a sense of spiritual rest, or, just to find out how you are in terms of your life purpose and meaning? Thank you for those of you that have shared. And there's also interesting to see the difference, sensory, mental, emotional, a few times, more than just one. Yeah, I'm actually reflecting on what I would need. I think mine's creative. I feel like that's something, the rest I feel okay with. My sleep especially, I've made that a priority recently, and it's working most of the time. So what I'm going to do, because the chats were so well received last week, I'm going to create breakout rooms, And once again, I know last time I said 4 minutes, so this time I'll maybe make it 5 minutes because the time goes quickly. And if you would like to, if you prefer not to go to a breakout room, you can stay in this main room with me. But what I invite you to do is to share in the small group that you'll be in, what type of rest do you have a longing for more of? So you've expressed that in the chat. But is there something that you could actually do today or tomorrow or really soon to help you achieve that? So what type of rest do you have a longing for more of? And is there something that you could, if you've got an idea, great. And if you don't, perhaps the other person or people could help you with that. Is there something that you could do? So in a moment, you should receive a request to go into a room, and I'll see you back in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's good. It's really
Welcome
it's
back.
really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to think about. I think it's easier when it's presented, by somebody clearly. Welcome back. Would anybody like to share? Ideally, share your own insight, unless you have permission from somebody else. But what are some of the strategies that have come out for you to potentially get more of the rest that you feel you need?
I'm happy to go.
Thanks, Lauren.
So I was talking to Josh about how I'm trying to increase my creative and physical passive rest. So one of my personal pledges to try and have a digital detox for an hour before bed, and try and incorporate some meditation into that as well. So Josh mentioned that he'd done a similar exercise previously, so he gave me some interesting tips about having a Samsung phone that automatically switches on and off at the start and end of the day, and having his phone like downstairs and not in his bedroom also helps. So that was really useful, actually, hearing those tips.
Yeah, I've actually, on the learning platform, you just reminded me, one of the handouts that are available is called Finding Your Digital Sweet Spot.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really cool information in there. I actually went through it myself the other day because I did a lot of research from Cole Newport and somebody else, and I put through what they said is the best. Digital minimalism. That was his book. So that handout, it might be useful for you specifically. Yeah, great. Anybody else like to share? Elizabeth, did you come off mute to share? Yeah.
Well, yes. So for me, I remembered that you said to focus on one or two things because not to get too ambitious. Yeah, for me, it's the same thing. It's avoiding lights from the phone or an iPad when I go to bed, and try to go to bed at not too late time so that I get enough sleep. Because I've noticed that when I go to bed too late, I get too tired the next day, much more than before. So by just having that routine, so that's what I'm focusing on at the moment.
Wonderful. I mean, if you're interested in deep diving into sleep, I would say it depends how committed you are, but if you're happy to find between 3 and 6 hours to listen, Dr. Uberman, his podcast, he interviews the author of Why We Sleep, Matthew Walker, who's the planet's Jedi around why we need sleep and how. And they've got 2, but I think both of the podcasts are over 2 hours. So it's better to, listen to it in bite-sized pieces, or if you've got a long journey to do. But very practical things, like what revolutionized my ability to fall asleep at night, besides a digital detox and having that sensory and mental break, was exposing myself to morning light within an hour of waking. So that's really important, that low angle solar light when the sun's just coming up off the horizon or still quite low in the sky. When you go outside, you've got to be outside. You can't do this from inside, but like you can stand with a cup of tea just right outside, or just go for a 10-minute walk. 10 to 20 minutes of that kind of light helps the pineal gland and a lot of different neurochemicals and modulators to create balance. And that helps you sleep at night. And I was like, really? it changed the way I sleep. So I don't know.
Oh, good to know.
And I got that from listening to the podcast. So yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. So are we ready to do a non-sleep deep rest exercise? Right. Okay. What I invite you to do is, if you can, uncross your legs or sit as comfortably as you can. Once again, soften your gaze. If you're comfortable to do so, close your eyes and allow yourself to bring your awareness to my voice. And once again, as we did at the start, bring your awareness to how your body is being supported by the chair. So notice how your sitting bones weigh down into the chair. Notice how your feet sink into the floor and are supported by the ground. And notice where your hands are, either on your lap or on the desk in front of you. And then bring your awareness to your breathing. Notice how your breathing feels. Can you perhaps take a deeper inhale on your next inhale? And on your next exhale, could you exhale a little bit longer than usual, allowing your jaw and your neck and your shoulders to relax and maybe drop a little bit more towards the ground. Now I'm going to ask you to bring your awareness to different parts of your body. There's nothing for you to do or to change. Simply bring your attention to that body part. If you want to allow it to relax, you can. But if you don't, or you can't, or you don't know how to do that, that is okay. So bring your awareness to your right hand thumb. Bring your awareness to your right hand pointing finger, your right hand middle finger, your right hand ring finger, your pinky. Bring your awareness to the palm of your right hand, to your wrist. Bring your awareness to your whole right hand, your forearm, your elbow, the back of your arm, and your bicep of your right arm, your shoulder. And now bring your awareness to your whole right arm. Bring your awareness now to your left hand thumb, your left pointing finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky, the palm of your left hand, your wrist, your whole left hand, your forearm, your elbow, the back of your left arm, your bicep of your left arm, your shoulder. Now bring your awareness to your whole left arm. Bring your awareness to the top of your head, your forehead, your eyebrows, the space between your eyebrows, your eyelids, your eyeballs, your temples, your nose, your cheekbones, your lips, the inside of your mouth, your tongue, your teeth, your jaw, your neck. Now bring your awareness to your whole head. Moving down to your shoulders, your upper chest, including your upper back, your middle chest and your middle back, all your rib cages, down towards your belly and your lower back. And hold your whole upper body in your awareness. Your hips, your right and left hip, your buttocks, your pelvic girdle, your right thigh, the back of the right leg, your right knee, behind your right knee, the front of your right shin, your right calf, your right heel, the top of your right foot, your right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, small toe, the sole of your right foot. Bring your whole right leg into your awareness. Your left thigh, the front and back of your left leg, your left knee, the back of the left knee, your left shin, your left calf, your left heel, the top of your left foot, your left big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, small toe, the sole of your left foot. Now bring your whole left leg into your awareness. Bring your awareness back to the center of your chest, to your breath. And in your own pace, take 3 nourishing deep breaths once again, making these the deepest, slowest, most nourishing breaths you've taken today. And one more deep breath. And from this place of deep relaxation, to express gratitude to yourself, to this body that carries you through life, that keeps you able to do everything that you do, to think, to feel, to act. And to slowly bring movement to your hands and feet, wriggling your toes, maybe moving your ankles, lifting your feet up and down, turning your hands and your wrists around, moving your shoulders, maybe your head side to side, and only when you're ready, gently open your eyes, not looking directly at the screen at first. And then when you're ready to take in the screen, I'd like to welcome you back from, I don't know if that was your first, it may be, non-sleep deep rest or yoga nidra protocol. If you're feeling really relaxed and like the last thing you want to do is engage with the Zoom chat, you have my full permission to disappear. If you need to go and do something like drive or work I do recommend you go have a glass of water or stand up and shake it off, because you've really activated potentially the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. And that can make you feel very relaxed. It can also bring up emotions, because when the body feels safe to surrender and it's relaxed, it can bring up. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm just a WhatsApp away. If you want to have a chat or ask a question or share anything. And for those of you that are happy to stay, I'd like to know how you are. Would anybody like to share how that was? Lauren, you look like you've just stepped out of a spa or something. Have you done that? Have you done this before, Fabrice, or anyone? Yeah.
No, I've never.
And was it relaxing for you?
Yeah, even though I'm in the office.
Oh, yeah, I was quite conscious of that. Yeah, so there's signs to show that when you give the conscious mind parts to focus on, and quite quickly. The first time I did this, I was annoyed at how quickly people went, those that do it properly. But that's the whole idea. It's meant to override so that you surrender. And what I recommend is, if you'd like to try this, so if you did not get a good night's sleep, or you're feeling like you need to calm yourself, doing yoga nidra or this NSDR for 5 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour. Sometimes I do it for 45 minutes if I'm really, really wired and I know I'm not going to sleep. Finding the right voice is important. So I know that I struggle with, there's only one female voice that I found that I like. Her name's Jennifer Piercy. Otherwise, I tend to like more male voices. So experiment. There's a lot for free on YouTube. And inside, the Calm app, I don't know if Headspace has got these type of rests. I haven't checked it for a while, but Insight Timer has got a lot as well. When I send through the link to the recording, I'll include a few resources. But thank you for being here and contemplating different forms of rest and giving yourself a bit of a nervous system recharge. And I hope that it helps you to go into the rest of your day with a sense of calm and restoration. Thank you. Anybody wants to stay on and chat? I'm going to stay on, but I do want to keep the calls to less than an hour, because then I know that people watch the recording. Thank you, Paula. Thanks. Take care. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers.